Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about a story that has shocked the entire world. A story that has changed how people look at modern warfare and global power. For years, Russia has been presenting its new generation of weapons as unstoppable, as machines and missiles that no defense system could ever block. These weapons were branded as game changers, something that would put Russia ahead of everyone else and force its enemies to think twice before taking any action. But in the last month, something has happened that nobody could have imagined. Ukraine, with its limited resources compared to Russia, has managed not only to stop these so-called unstoppable weapons, but in many cases has completely destroyed them. What was once a symbol of Russian strength has now become an example of weakness. And the world is watching closely to see how this changes the balance of power. From the outside, these weapons look terrifying. The unveiled hypersonic missiles that could allegedly travel many times the speed of sound, tanks that were supposed to be indestructible, and advanced missile defense systems that promised to protect Russian territory from any attack. The exterior was meant to inspire fear and respect. Parades in Moscow showed off sleek designs, giant missile carriers, and new military hardware covered in camouflage patterns and heavy armor. On the surface, it was a clear message. Russia had weapons the rest of the world could not handle. The presentation worked for a while because people believed what they saw. The exterior was carefully designed for intimidation, and in military psychology, appearance alone can be a weapon. But as the war continued, it became clear that the shiny exterior was hiding a very fragile core. When we look deeper inside, the reality of these weapons becomes far less impressive. The interior systems, electronics, and software have been reported to be outdated, some even relying on parts that were imported from abroad before heavy sanctions began. Unlike Western systems that are often tested, updated, and built for efficiency, many of these Russian weapons carried flaws that were hidden under the glamorous outside. Soldiers and technicians have even claimed that maintenance was poor, spare parts were lacking, and the technology was not as advanced as advertised. The interior is short of expectations, and once Ukraine began capturing some of these systems, their weaknesses became visible. The truth is that the core of the so-called unstoppable force was not much stronger than the older technology it was supposed to replace. Performance is where the biggest myth was destroyed. Russia promised hypersonic missiles that no air defense could shoot down. It promised tank systems that could crush any resistance. It promised that its new defense systems would protect the skies and allow Moscow to act without fear of retaliation. But when these weapons were finally tested in real battlefield conditions against Ukraine's defense, the story was very different. Ukrainian forces, using a combination of Western technology like Patriot missile systems and their own innovative tactics, managed to intercept and destroy many of these weapons. Hypersonic missiles that were supposed to be impossible to stop were brought down. Tanks that were supposed to be undefeatable were abandoned, burned, or blown up by drone. Performance, which was supposed to be the strong point of Russia's new arsenal, turned into the greatest weakness. Instead of shocking the world with their power, these weapons shocked the world with their failures. Safety is another factor that has been exposed. For any modern weapon, there should be safety systems in place, backup plans, and reliability so that the weapon not only works effectively, but also protects the soldiers using it. In this area, Russia's weapons failed again. Ukrainian forces discovered that many systems could be jammed, hacked, or destroyed with far cheaper technology. Drones costing a fraction of what Russian systems cost were able to neutralize. The safety of Russian soldiers depending on these weapons became questionable. And as more failures happened, the morale of Russian troops was shaken. Meanwhile, Ukraine's safety measures, heavily supported by Western allies, created a strong shield that could adapt quickly. Every time Russia tried something new, Ukraine and its partners found a way to counter it. The battlefield became a place where the idea of safety favored Ukraine instead of the one who claimed to have unstoppable weapons. The unique selling points of Russia's new arsenal were always about fear and superiority. Hypersonic speed, stealth design, futuristic tanks, and missile defense systems were advertised as the future of war. For a while, Russia convinced its people and even some other nations that these unique selling points made them untouchable. But what Ukraine proved is that uniqueness without reliability is meaningless. A weapon can be fast, powerful, and futuristic on paper. If it can be destroyed, jammed, or stopped, its uniqueness is just a slogan. In fact, the real unique factor turned out to be Ukraine's ability to adapt. Ukraine's selling point was not one specific weapon, but a strategy that involved intelligence, creativity, and the use of multiple systems together. This flexibility outmatched the Russian claim of invincibility. What Russia thought were its strongest features became weaknesses once they were exposed. The cost of these weapons is another shocking part of the story. Russia spent billions of dollars developing, producing, and advertising these so-called unstoppable systems. Years of resources, technology, and political capital were invested into making them the pride of the Russian military. Yet Ukraine managed to destroy them with much cheaper solutions. Drones costing a few $1,000s, missiles supplied by allies at far lower prices, and tactics developed quickly on the ground managed to wipe out systems worth hundreds of millions. The cost-to-loss ratio is embarrassing for Russia. While they continue pouring huge sums of money into weapons that do not perform as promised, Ukraine and its supporters are using efficiency to win battles at a fraction of the price. This financial disaster adds to the military failure, making the investment not only pointless but damaging for Russia's economy and long-term stability. All of this leads us to a conclusion that the world cannot ignore. Russia's so-called unstoppable weapons have been stopped. Their image of power has been destroyed. Their credibility as a military superpower has been questioned. Ukraine, a smaller country with fewer resources but strong determination and international support, has managed to do what experts once thought was impossible. This is not just about weapons. It is about the lesson that no matter how advanced or terrifying a system looks on the outside, what really matters is how it performs under real pressure. Russia built an image of strength, but Ukraine exposed the reality of weakness. The impact of this revelation is huge. It changes how other countries view Russia. It changes how people think about modern warfare. It shows that innovation, strategy, and partnerships can be more powerful than fear and propaganda. The unstoppable has been stopped, the untouchable has been touched, and the myth has been broken. For Ukraine, this victory is more than military. It is psychological, symbolic, and global. For Russia, the loss is not just equipment, but reputation. The weapons that were supposed to prove dominance are now reminders of failure. In the end, the story of Russia's unstoppable weapons being wiped off the map is not just about destroyed missiles and tanks.